Cryptozoology is, by its very nature, elusive. Thus, we cannot say that we are exactly bringing you the facts, but we will do our best to help you see these mythical legends as we do. So sit back, relax, and wait. What's that behind you? Never mind. Enjoy the show. Two, one. Welcome everybody to yet another week of Cryptids on Cryptids, a folklore podcast for all your folklore needs. I'm Martin.
I'm Syd.
And what are we talking about this week, Syd? Oh, right. I already know. It's werewolves.
It is. This is the modern interpretation of Werewolf Week, which means
That's a mouthful.
It sure is. Oh my god. Which means we get to talk about the cool things that happened after people started just throwing wolves on the stand.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss the old days of putting wolves in court and Catboy Dave werewolf thing. I don't remember what the bit was last week, but it was
Catboy
really good.
Dave from accounting. Yeah.
Yeah, where Catboy Dave from accounting. That was it.
We're Catboy Dave from accounting.
Yeah, we got there. We got there. We got back.
We did.
Got back
we did.
to him.
We got back.
I missed
got
you,
back
Dave.
To him.
Anyway, what's new with werewolves?
So, what's new with werewolves is a lot of interpretations.
Yeah, what's happened since like the 1800s? I think is where we left off.
I'd love to talk about that.
I'm not 100%
It is where we left
sure.
off.
Oh, cool.
Because I chose from the 1900s onward to be our modern interpretation of werewolves, if that's cool with you.
That makes sense. Last century or so.
Yeah, I figured that would shake out pretty well. So I think the first thing I want us to start with is that this is where we start to get into the interpretation of werewolf that I think everyone is used to seeing.
Yeah, like
so
the
previously
movie
we
version.
mentioned, yeah, because in the previous episode we had gone over like a werewolf is a human that turns into a wolf.
Yeah, just straight up is just a wolf.
Yeah. It's a person or a wolf. There is no in between. The more modern interpretation is something more akin to a humanoid wolf creature.
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic
is the word, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Not 100%, but...
No, you're correct.
Oh, cool. I love being correct, because it's like I'm just straight up taking it out of my ass. And if I'm right, then that's great. That's so good for me.
No. The anthropomorphic werewolf is a new interpretation. It is the first time it was ever seen was in Werewolf of London in 1935.
1935? Wow, that's earlier than I thought,
yes.
Actually.
Yeah, I was actually shocked at how early this was. It turns out people have been wanting werewolves to look like people for a long time.
Do you think that's because they're... No, never mind.
Finish that statement.
Well, people got horny for Dracula, so... I was thinking maybe...
I was really
it was probably along similar lines. I'm not 100% sure, though, and I'm worried about being right about this one.
Do you want me to tell you who the main werewolf of this film was?
Was it Dracula?
With a direct quote from Wikipedia?
You know what? Shoot. Go for it.
So the first film was The Werewolf of London. The main werewolf of this film is a dapper London scientist who retains some of his style and most of his human features after his transformation. Lead actor Henry Hull was unwilling to spend long hours being made up by his makeup artist Jack Pierce. So they reimagined the werewolf so that
that's great.
He could sit in the makeup chair less. But I do like... Then that happened, and they were like, oh, werewolves look more like people now. And then people started to make it like that with a trademark. And
make it
I'm gonna gloss
it
over a
horny
lot
for
of
this
that.
one. It's weird how this came about. This change came about literally because an actor didn't want to do his job.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I mean,
you love to see it.
You love to see it.
The epitome
It's
of male entitlement is not wanting to do your job and altering the entire course of a folklore that's been around for more than 2 centuries.
correct. And I think a lot of it comes from the popularization of people wanting to make things hot so goddamn bad.
I mean, they wanted to make Lucifer hot. That's literally the whole thing with Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
They made her
Yeah,
pensive
and-
and edgy and interesting.
Well, okay, I can't.
What?
People always like to take monsters and they're like, this thing is supposed to be evil, but what if I could change it? And then that's all the werewolf stuff that there is just people wanting hot werewolves that break a lot of shit. Like, there's so much property damage in all of the werewolf media because the werewolves have this whole thing where this is another more modern interpretation where they get a whole bunch of cool new powers.
Oh, cool. Powers?
Because they decided making them hot wasn't enough and that they also had to be buff as hell and just angry all the time.
I mean, like wolves are. Wolves are buff.
And angry all the time?
I don't think they're angry all the time,
I don't
but they
think they're angry all the
certainly
time.
are angry at the moon. And I think that's a weird thing that's come up with wolves specifically, is that howling at the moon is not a form of communication or anything like that. No, it is that they are specifically angry at the moon. I don't know where that came up, but I was told that as a child.
They just hate them
Yeah.
so fucking bad.
Yeah, no, just fuck that moon, dude. Fuck that stupid moon circle.
That stupid, dumb, bright cheese wheel up there.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm
like
trying
it.
to
Get it
fucking
gone.
sleep. Go the fuck away.
Get it gone. We don't want you here, moon. We don't trust you and your weird craters.
Yeah, why aren't you
Well-
as bright as the sun, but you're still a fucking circle in the sky? Get that shit out of here. Either be
We
the
get
sun
enough
or
of that during
don't.
the day.
It's nighttime. Fuck off.
It is funny to watch wolves howl majestically and imagine that that's what they're saying.
Man, fuck that shit. Fuck it.
Fuck you. Like a whole howl. Oh god. Well, because
That's great.
funny
yeah.
you bring up the moon. This is the bit where werewolves start to get associated with the moon.
Oh, interesting.
Because they made werewolves too much of a Mary Sue, so they needed a nerf.
Yeah, big nerf.
Dead ass.
Big nerf.
Big nerf. Because with the fact that they wanted to make werewolves hot, they're like, okay, now they look like people, and we want them to be immune to damage
Yep. All damage.
by ordinary weapons. Only silver objects. Only that.
That's interesting to me as well.
We're gonna get to why there's a very specific reason for that, but just they wanted them to be like
Yeah.
vulnerable to silver, extending that to like they don't want to touch the metal because it'll cause burns.
Oh, wow. That's dramatic.
Yeah, literally, like they're not fairies, but they still want it to cause burns. You also see lycanthropy now being considered like a hereditary condition or transmitted like a disease via the bite of another werewolf. So then you get werewolves in human form being invulnerability to conventional injury, superhuman speed and strength, and landing on their feet from high falls, which, I hate to break it to you, is not how wolves work.
I think that's a cat thing.
I think that's a cat thing.
Damn, it is
And
where Cat Boy Dave.
From accounting.
Fuck.
Like, it can't be where Catboy Dave. We can't all be where Catboy Dave.
We can't. Just that one werewolf was where Catboy Dave.
Just that one lycanthrope was where Catboy Dave.
And then they were like, ah, fuck, every werewolf must land on its feet. No, that's because he's a cat boy. Fuck.
It's because in human form he was a cat boy. When he turns into a werewolf, he maintains the cat boy instinct. What is a cat boy instinct?
I don't.
What would be a cat boy instinct?
Apparently, landing on your feet, maybe doing weird stretches, hissing at people,
Screaming, swatting, generally being a nuisance,
pushing things off counters.
making weird eye contact from across the room.
Yes.
Or is that like a human trait?
I feel like it's both, and that's why it happens with cats and humans so much.
Yeah. There's just like, you make eye contact with a cat. You ever make eye contact with a cat and you feel like they learn something about you that they're not comfortable with them knowing?
Yeah, it's like when you
Like, I
make
feel
eye
like
contact with them and then they like slowly blink and then like turn away. And it's like
that means they like you.
you figured something out and I don't trust it implicitly. I'm glad that you are a fan, but I'm worried.
One of my friends very recently adopted a new kitten, and they took him home. And so this means the kitten pops up, and then now and again when we play D&D, because we play over video chat, because we're social distancing due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll be sitting there, and you'll watch the tail sort of slink across the bottom of the screen.
That's amazing. I love that.
But very recently, they've had problems with their dice, because they'll attempt to roll the dice, and the cat will get to the dice before they can, and just bolt with them.
Oh no.
Like, grab them in their mouth and just run.
Just,
and
bye.
so he goes, like, they go to grab the cat and to get the dice back, because cats can't have dice. That's not good for them.
Not great. Not great.
And in the process, they hold the cat up in front of the camera, and there's just a moment where the cat makes eye contact with me through the screen, D20 in its mouth, like ears and claws in every direction, and I've never felt so seen.
They're just doing it. They're just doing their thing.
It's so relatable that they're just vibing.
they're just vibing. Not only are they just vibing, they're also an actual mess.
Yeah, actively.
Actively.
But, like, they're cute, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That's the vibe I want to have.
You know what? I wish you luck there.
I'm not going to. I will never have the same energy as a cat, but I can fall asleep at the drop of a hat, so I got that going for me, which is nice.
I think that's more worrying than not.
I am so tired.
Yeah. But werewolves.
But werewolves, though.
So werewolves
like,
are
werewolves,
Catboys confirmed.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Because they started out as evil. You know this.
Yeah.
But then they started to portray the werewolf as more like... I wouldn't say... I'm going to say sympathetic. Because it becomes more of like... it starts out as like werewolves are the villain, because you get the Wolfman. And people... Yeah. The Wolfman is not a werewolf, but it looks enough like a werewolf so that people are like, oh, Wolfman, werewolf, bad. Don't like that.
Yeah.
But then you start to get portrayals like An American Werewolf in London, which is like this tortured werewolf who's just sort of like... It's like a comedic protagonist, but he's still like struggling with being a werewolf.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like anguish and lamenting and just edgy.
I mean, I think that it's very, like I said, Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Or just, that tortured bad boy trope, where he's like,
yeah,
I'm edgy and I'm cool and I smoke cigarettes, but
don't do
damn,
that.
I'm
You
sad.
get lung cancer.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Because it's like, I'm just not built for human society, I've just got too much beast in me, like that. But
That's
then you get, like...
good... I don't know. It's a good trope, though.
It's a good trope. I'm not saying it's not a good trope.
I'm not
saying it's not a good trope. But I'm saying it's like they use that to sort of lure people into being like, look how cool werewolves are. And then before they know it, like, bam.
Get eaten.
You got a whole bunch of people who, like...
Oh.
Completely changed how an entire folklore is told.
Yeah. No, they made werewolves edgy and cool, and then people were like,
Yeah.
damn,
Damn.
me too.
This is cool.
I want to be that.
I want to be that.
I will fuck that. And you know what?
Like, out of any monster
That's the human
that I
condition. What?
I'm going to ask you very nicely to repeat that for the folks at home. Because I just processed that.
I just said it's the human condition.
I know you did. I'm talking about before that.
What? Sometimes people want to be that. Sometimes people want to fuck that, and that's the human condition.
What's the human condition? Good lord. Good lord.
I mean, that's how we relate to protagonists, right? Right? Am I wrong?
Yes, but also no.
No, I'm not wrong at all.
Oh god. This podcast, I leave with like active psychic damage.
I'm just glad I could do that for you.
It's like, imagine standing in the middle of a cornfield and you get hit with a train. It is not how I was I was expecting to die, but not like that. Like
Yeah. That's also a very Ohioan metaphor.
standing in a cornfield and getting hit with a train instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what I can do. It's what I bring to the table is Midwestern metaphors.
And I bring the psychic damage.
Bonk. Oh my god. Can I make a quick aside? That still relates to werewolves, but that I think is wild.
Yes, please.
So I've been in quarantine, which means I don't go out a whole lot, if at all. But today, I put on a mask and all of that, and I went out to a Halloween Express.
Oh, exciting.
Yes. So I got a few, it wasn't this morning, it was last Sunday. I can do time. But, where are we? Oh, last Sunday, went to the Halloween Express, brought some friends with me, it was great. But I haven't been into a Halloween Express, like, ever. I'm gonna be real. Because when I was little, all they would have is those big, sort of animatronics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so afraid of those, I would not go into the Halloween Express. I was too afraid.
Yeah, they're spooky.
They're spooky and they're all motion sensor, and I am jittery at best.
Yeah.
Fight or flight at worst. And I do tend to fight, so I can't go into haunted houses anymore. And like, Halloween stores aren't really the best environment for me either. But like, I went in and they had no animatronics.
Oh,
they had.
Sad. I have a very fun story about
sad.
an animatronic. I'll tell you after.
Yeah, it is sad, but they had like so many costumes. Like,
yeah.
So many.
That's exciting.
And I usually make my Halloween costumes, just because I enjoy costuming. So I don't, like, I had heard, like, I watched Mean Girls. I understand that 60 Halloween costumes are a thing. I did not realize the magnitude of which this existed until I walked in and, like, looked.
There's a lot.
And I was like, huh. Because you have, like, the scary side of Halloween, where they're like, do you want to look like you just crawled out of a grave? Because we can do that for you. Here's how. And I'm like, cool, yes. Hell yeah. I want to look like I've just been dragged behind a car. Like, that's the goal. I want to look like a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look immediately to the left of that, and they're like, here's a werewolf costume, and it's just the mask and, like, claws. And I was like, huh.
Yeah. I don't know whether to appreciate or hate that a lot of the, like, quote-unquote sexy Halloween costumes are pretty much just the regular Halloween costume, but with a titty window.
You're so accurate. I'm actually floored.
Like, if you look at the regular costumes, they're pretty much the same.
The same
It's
thing.
the same mask. Right?
Yeah.
Same gloves, same all that. There's just a titty window in there.
I think my main frustration is with a lot of the female oriented Halloween costumes.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't like a normal option. All of them are just like that.
Yeah, it's
And I'm like, I I don't like, okay, I am 100% down for dressing however you want to at all points and times. But as someone who it is incredibly hard to size things for, that's not gonna work, bud.
yeah,
Like,
no, it's just
I can't fit into those, you know?
mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I want to be a cool werewolf for Halloween, I can't wear, like, the only werewolf option they had was like, they're like, here's a mask and here are the hands, and that's it. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do for the rest of it?
Here's what you
Like,
do
I
for the
can
rest
just,
of it. You go into the Halloween store, you find a Chewbacca costume, you buy the Chewbacca costume, you cut off the belt, and now you're a werewolf.
a good point. A good point.
Pro strats.
Pro strats.
Repurpose costumes.
And I also tend to get confused with the costuming anyway because I'm like, I would like a werewolf costume, and they're like, we don't have a werewolf costume, but we do have an anthropomorphic wolf person costume, and I'm like, sure.
Because werewolf is a title owned by Disney.
Yeah, that's literally, they're like, somebody has the copyright on the word werewolf, so you can't have a werewolf costume. Or like, I think my favorite thing is they had like two different types of like like they had an FBI costume, but you can't say FBI on a costume because that you'll get in trouble for impersonation of an officer.
Yeah.
So it says FBI. I'm like, okay, sure.
I really love the ones that are like super niche.
Yeah.
Where like they can't say Jedi because the company that's producing it doesn't have like Disney's permission to make a Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's like light sword guy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
That's my
there
favorite.
was there was an unlicensed Link costume, and it just said Green Hero Child, and
Green
I really wish
Hero
I took
Child.
a picture of that.
That's so great.
They didn't have any Master Swords, though. Also, at Halloween stores, you can buy so many fake weapons for under $20.
I know.
It's insane! Like, I bought, or I thought I was told that I could not purchase by the people I went with, because they're concerned for my health and well-being. I could have bought a fake axe, a fake hammer, like a pitchfork? Pitchfork.
Last year I went into a Halloween store and I impulse bought 2 swords and Thor's hammer.
That's so cool. Like, that's, you can buy so many cool weapons.
You can just buy whatever
None of
you
them-
want.
And like, it's all good. They did sell both working handcuffs and a very terrifying barbed whip that I'm pretty sure was real because it was rather expensive, which was a
my
little
God.
scary. Yeah. I was
yeah.
like,
One time I found a
'cause I-
wizard staff and I was like, I want this, but then it was
Yeah.
like $200 because it was like real wood, and I was like, oh fuck,
oh,
why do you have this?
why did you have
Hey,
this?
Party City, what the fuck?
No, like, I walk in and I look around and they have like a terrifying spiked whip, and I was like, haha, this is funny. And I go to snap it like as a joke and it makes the crack sound. And I was like, oh shit,
That's
that's real.
that's not great. Because what if a child bought that?
I was like, this is designed to harm people. Expressly.
Yeah, put this back in the back room.
Like, I don't feel like this should be at a shelf at which I can just casually grab it. Like, y'all have an upper shelf area.
No, they
Tuck it
just
there.
put it somewhere else.
Put it somewhere else. I do feel bad for the Party City employees who are just trying to do their job. And I come into the store and just start, like, pretending to stab my friends with every single prop knife they have.
Yes. I did that with one of my friends a couple of years ago, and he got so annoyed with me that he left the store.
Oh.
Which I think is appropriate.
They had one of those knives that you can hit somebody with, and it looks like you've stabbed them.
Yeah,
'cause
it
the blade
retracts
goes
in,
back
yeah.
into the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
For like $2.
I need to go to a Party City. Fuck.
I highly recommend just going to any type of Halloween store and
Just having a time.
just having a time.
It's
Make a day of it.
yeah.
Like,
Fuck.
get a cool Halloween costume. I was talked out of purchasing all of the Halloween costumes I wanted to buy, because my friends were like,
That's
"No,
so valid.
you may not do that." And I was like, I also just wanted to buy a cape because they sold capes there. And as we've said before on this podcast,
Capes
I
are
think
amazing. Bring them back.
yeah, they sold like capes and cloaks and all those cool things. And I was like, here's the concept. They also sold neon green cat suits. I'm gonna
Oh
buy
my god, Sid.
a neon green cat suit, roller skates, and a black cape, and I'm just gonna go and be a specter of death.
Last time that I went into a Halloween store, among the two swords and the Thor hammer, I did also buy a top hat.
Hell yeah.
Which I am actually still very happy with that purchase to this day.
Yeah.
Because where else am I gonna get a top hat for $4? Nowhere.
No. I run into a problem though, because with a lot of the costuming shops, it's like a one size thing,
Yeah,
and
unfortunately.
I have a smaller head. Unfortunately, yeah, because it means a lot of the stuff doesn't fit. So I went to put the top hat on, and it literally just covered my entire head. Like my whole head fit in the top hat. It was like, oh, oops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna tell you about. So you know those animatronics.
Yeah.
When I was younger, this was before I left Ohio, the homeland.
The homeland.
I was going into one of those Halloween Express places, and there was an animatronic werewolf by the door, and I was like, he had his like hand up, and I was like, oh cool, high five, and it had the like animated thing that it did was like it would swat at you, so it actually did high five me, and I think that's the coolest I've ever felt.
That honestly sounds incredible.
I got
wanna
high
get
fived by a werewolf. I mean,
Though, according to modern werewolf interpretation, that like should launch you theoretically.
theoretic. Are they? Oh yeah, we did talk about how they're buff, but
Super
how
strength.
buff? Are they just buff or do they have super strength?
They have super strength and they're buff.
So like
Or
Superman.
just- Yeah. And they also get superhuman speed, which I'm pretty sure comes exclusively from Twilight. Now, I wanted to see how far we could get into this episode without mentioning Twilight.
And the answer is
because
about 30 minutes.
That's not bad!
Almost 30 We didn't make it past 30 minutes. But we almost made
But
it
almost.
to 30 minutes without mentioning Twilight.
Because a lot of modern werewolf, like, interpretation comes from Twilight.
Interesting.
And also from fan fiction.
Yeah,
I am
figured there's a
going-
lot of fan fiction.
There's a lot.
I feel like there's a lot of
s-
really like cheesy Halloween movies that really lean into it a lot as well.
Yes. The cheesy Halloween movies tend to lean into the werewolf as the monster, usually.
Yeah.
And so you get, like, the silver, or you get the, like, aggressiveness and things like that. And then you get... I have never seen or read Twilight.
That's good.
So I have no
That's very
opinion
good.
on the book itself or anything to do with it.
All that I know is Stephanie Meyer was very Mormon. And a lot of her prejudices were recorded into the book.
Oh. I have never read it. So I had to go. I need you guys to know this so you understand the suffering that I had to go through. I had to go to I have people that I know who have read it, and I had to go up to a real person in the meat space and be like, hey.
In the meat space?
I
Wait,
need
excuse
you-
me, Sid?
In the meat space.
You said the meat space?
Yeah. As opposed to digitally. I'm in the meat space.
Thanks, I hate it.
It's opposed to the digispace.
This is the first time that you've, like, played the Uno reverse card and dealt psychic damage to me.
You've never heard the meat space used before?
I've heard it used, but only as a meme.
No.
Never casually. Why'd you do that, Syd?
Because, like, I had to go in the meat space to a person I know in real life who I go to college with and be like, hey, I need you to sit down with me for 2 hours and tell me about Twilight, specifically the werewolves. And they did that.
From the movie, like, seeing, like, trailers for it, I don't actually think
Yeah.
I've watched any of the movie. Actually, no. I fell asleep watching Harry Potter on ABC.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and it was playing Twilight. And then it took me a good 5 minutes to find the remote to turn the TV off because it was also 3 a.m. Like, under other circumstances, I might have just watched it. I might have been like, fuck it, and watched it. But no, I was like, all right, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, no.
So I have watched about 5 minutes of it.
I
That's
have
about it,
not
though.
seen any of it.
That's good.
Just because it tends to not be my genre. But it was so popularized that it did affect how a lot of people viewed werewolves.
Yeah, it's true.
And I am not going to get into the whole bit where he imprints on a baby.
Yeah, that's
We
nasty.
Are going to gloss clean over that, other than the fact that gross.
Gross. Yes.
Gross.
Gross.
But we are going to talk about the fact that they did, I think, technically have a humanoid werewolf. But a lot of the times it was just a human turning into a wolf. But it was just a big wolf.
Yeah.
Like, no bigger than that. Like a human sized, like just an absolute massive unit of a wolf.
An absolute lad.
Just an absolute lad, like a horse-sized wolf. Which
Damn, a horse-sized
is
wolf
massive.
would be so cool, though.
Yeah.
I think we're overlooking how cool a horse-sized wolf would be.
Well, like, dire wolves are incredibly cool.
Man, if I could ride a wolf into battle, I would.
I would.
I would love that.
I would immediately get launched, but, like, I would.
I don't know. I don't think I would get launched.
I've ridden horses before, so I'd probably try to ride a wolf like you ride a horse. And just immediately just fall off.
Yeah, I don't think there's a 1-to-1 translation there, but
I don't think so.
I think there's a little bit faster. Well, actually, I don't know. Would a horse be faster
I feel like
than a wolf?
a horse would be faster than a wolf. But again, I don't know, because I feel like a horse is designed to carry someone, and a wolf isn't. So I feel like there'd be a little
Well, if
bit
it
of
was a
weird
big enough
translation in that one.
wolf,
You get a big enough wolf, yeah, but like,
you got a horse-sized wolf, I'm sure they don't have a problem carrying a person.
they could, but I'm saying, like, aerodynamic-wise,
Aerodynamic
You'd
wise,
have
yeah,
to,
that's
like,
true. You'd have to
strap a person to a wolf,
you'd have to
which I
like
feel
lean
like,
down. You'd have to like lean into
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Keep those aerodynamics
But at that point,
straight.
At what point are you just a human desperately clinging on to a wolf who's just torpedoing forward?
I think it depends
how
on if you
long
have
can
a
you
saddle
hold
or
on?
not. I'm gonna be honest.
What type of saddle would you need for a wolf?
Probably English.
Yep.
What? You don't want the horn there. You have to lean forward.
Okay. I'm not gonna get into this right now. I don't like English riding. I think it's dumb.
I mean,
I understand why it's a thing. But know that I am a Western rider, and I think it's dumb.
I've done both.
I respect it. But when I used to work at a stable, the English riders would always show up in full dressage, like, every time they'd come
yeah,
in.
no.
And I was like, that is so nerdy.
You probably should have the pants and the boots, but other than that, I don't think you need the blazer.
They wore the blazer, and I was like, oh, good God.
think you need
Here
that.
they come. They looked like penguins. It was so funny. I I mean, I wasn't much better. I wore like a terrible plaid button up every single day, but like I was also feral, so I think I get a pass.
I mean, I wore like the fucking cowboy boots, jeans, flannel, and
That's what I
as
had.
soon as my parents stopped coming with me when I would ride horses, because it was their horses I was riding. But as soon as they stopped
Yeah.
coming, I stopped wearing helmets because they required that I wear a helmet, and I was just like, actually, fuck that, and I just wore a cowboy hat. Because that's the kind of
I
child I
wore
was.
Oh, I wore a riding helmet
That's
because
smart. That's smart. You should do that.
I did vaulting. I did vaulting, so I had to wear a helmet. Uh, Vaulting, for those of you who don't know, is gymnastics on horseback. Uh, was it probably the smartest idea for me who did not do gymnastics in real life to do gymnastics on a horse? Probably not, but I did it.
Yeah, I did
And
gymnastics in real life.
I did not do gymnastics. Like, I was asked very politely to leave the gymnastics class I was enrolled in as a child.
I feel
Uh,
like that's another one for the trivia, is just like, which one of us do you think did gymnastics?
did
It
gymnastics.
was me. I did it.
I did not. We tried. We tried gymnastics and dance, but I had to be physically removed from the trampoline, so I didn't do that anymore. Because
Yeah,
I
I feel like
was.
gymnastics, they really just let me be feral, and it was great.
They did not, because I was in like a little like a little girls gymnastics class, and they wanted us to like join the gym and be gymnasts like immediately.
Mm.
Uh, and I have ADHD, and I am not going to do the clean little tumbles. I'm gonna go play in the cheese pit and see if I can like launch myself over the bars of the trampoline, which I did do.
Yeah, no, I did a lot of I did a lot of things where they were like, "All right, Marty, we're just gonna start off with a nice little swing from bar to bar. You're just gonna, you know," and I'm like, "Nah, fuck that. I already learned how to do all this shit, so I'm gonna do a bunch of fucking just dumb shit, and you're not gonna be able to get me off the bar safely enough, and I know that."
If I spin fast enough, you can't touch me. Sonic theory of movement. uh,
One one unlucky person did try to stop me from doing like you know how you swing on the bar and you just go around and around and around. I
yeah.
figured out how to do that, and they didn't like that I did that, and one of them went to try and stop me, and I did kick them in the face. And I do feel bad about that still, about 10 years later. Um,
Oh,
but man, fuck.
oh my god.
It is the sonic theory of movement. I'm spinning too
Yeah.
fast, you cannot touch me.
You can't touch me, dude. I feel like we were both feral in childhood, just in slightly different ways. I was anxious feral, where I was twitchy, and if you move weird, I am gonna run
Yeah,
so fast.
it's like, uh, yeah, there's definitely like different kinds of like, you know, like you're twitchy and I'm like, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want, and if you can stop me, that's your prerogative.
God wanted me dead. You get to find out why.
Yeah,
Uh,
and here I am, about
I
6, 7, 8 years later, inflicting psychic damage on the internet.
good lord. Oh my gosh.
It's their fault for not
But
seeing.
like, so I feel like between the two of us, you would probably be the one who would end up being a werewolf in personality.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like that's accurate.
Though I had somebody tell me that I gave off werewolf energy, and I do not know what that means, but I'm choosing to take it as a compliment.
I think it is a compliment. It's like,
I think it is a compliment.
I feel like it's like, you know, you've kind of like, I feel like some people have this where it's like, you see them and you're like, you are like a dog. You know? Like
Yeah,
you're just,
this is the same
you're an
person who
upbeat
told
person.
me I gave off the energy as a human golden retriever.
Yes.
And I was like,
yeah,
damn.
that's I think exactly what werewolf energy means.
Damn. Because I do have, like, at one point, I did just look like Shep from Animal Crossing. unironically.
That was
If you
not
do
that
not
long
know-
ago. You can go back in our
No.
episodes, and it's like 3 episodes ago where you did make that quote exactly.
Yeah,
Where I was
I do look
bashing
like
bullets,
Shep from
and you were
Animal
like,
Crossing.
hold on.
Well, because, like, I think with werewolves, you get sort of the imagery where they have transformed from what was once, like, this terrifying creature into something that's a lot more approachable. As
Yeah.
far as, like, more dog, less wolf, if that makes sense. Where people are like, oh, like, a werewolf would be protective, or, like, a werewolf would be something that, like, is less likely to hurt you, because wolves and dogs are basically the same thing. And then you have to be like, okay, now you are less scared of wolves because they're not actively trying to eat you. But, like, they started out as monsters because people were actively dying to wolf attacks, like, every other week.
Well, that's a French problem, and the Americans never had that problem, because we killed all the wolves pretty much.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good, but it's true.
That's not good. But, like, that's why I think people, or the American, and I say, like, more modern interpretation, and I suppose the American interpretation as well, favors heavily, like, the dog-like behavior.
Yeah.
Instead.
Because we have much more of a touchstone for what a dog is than we do for what
I
a
think
wolf
a wolf
is.
is.
You
Yeah.
know, like, even
And, like,
areas
people
where
have-
wolves were, right? Now we have greater populations of feral dogs and coyotes in those areas.
Yeah.
There's not a lot
'Cause,
of
like,
touchstone for it.
So instead you get the interpretation of a dog, especially because people tend to have wolf dogs. Now you see that as well.
Oh, yeah. My neighbor
So
had one.
You blur the line heavily between, like, what's a dog and what's a wolf.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, a wolf is just a big dog. And I'm like, no, that thing will probably eat your face at least a little bit. Like, that's still a wild animal.
Yeah. No, it's
But I think people
definitely-
are so infatuated with the idea that they have, like, wolves have a social structure. And so they're like, you can make, like, slaps the hood of the fucking werewolf cannon. And they're like, you can make a whole society out of this shit. And then they do.
You could fit so much story in these bad boys. Slaps werewolf on
They
the ass.
do. Don't. Do not. Because, like, okay, I was really hoping we could get through the episode without mentioning this, but it needs to be mentioned at least once. There is an entire subgenre of really horny fan fiction on the internet about werewolves. That exists.
Yeah, there's
Because
definitely
one of the
several
things-
Tumblr posts that I personally have seen where it's like me and my werewolf boyfriend, and it's like, so please do not.
Do not. Bad idea. Because people are like, oh, if the aggressiveness and animalistic urges boost on a werewolf because they can turn into an animal, that will equate across the board.
I don't.
The whole board. And then I was like, just because they're really hungry and they want to fight doesn't mean that you can be like that.
No, don't. Please don't.
Don't be like that. Let them be. They're just vibing.
Yeah.
So you get that on the internet, which tended to take the teeth out of werewolves at least a little bit when it comes to scariness factor, because people were like, damn,
Yeah. I don't. It's.
you can make this like that. And I was like, I mean, I guess you could, but this is a monster at the core.
I mean, it's not
It
like.
could-
It's not even that, like, it's a monster, because, like, Guillermo del Toro taught us you can fuck a monster. If there's anything to take away from his movies, that's it.
I am unbelievably angry
But here's the thing.
at that. No,
Here's the thing.
you finish you, and then we'll yell at you.
Here's the thing. A werewolf is still a werewolf. And I think the main takeaway from this is that the French were right. Not Guillermo del Toro. That's just... You can fuck some monsters, but please... Wolves? Mm-mm. They'll eat you.
Do not do that.
They'll eat you.
I just had to look up Guillermo del Toro's film works.
His...
You know he produced Kung Fu Panda, right?
Excuse me?
Kung Fu Panda 2 and Kung Fu Panda 3, Rise of the Guardians, Puss in Boots, um, Pacific Rim. I don't watch a lot of movies. The Hobbit.
He was involved in The Hobbit?
Yeah, also Hellboy. Yeah, he was involved in the Hobbit film series.
Well, Peter Jackson fucked that right into the ground, so it goes along with what I was saying, is you can really fuck anything if you put your mind to it.
I feel like
What?
I feel like I should say something to that, but I literally cannot make my brain go to come up with anything about that.
Yeah, anyway, my point is the French were right. Don't mess with werewolves.
The French were right. Don't mess with werewolves.
They'll eat you.
They'll eat you. They're a cool Halloween monster. They're a cool creature, just in general. I think werewolves are super cool.
They're literally one of the coolest. But I think the media infatuation and the internet...
I'm gonna be honest. People tend to portray werewolves as sort of like a werewolf is edgy, and like they lean into the more like feral bit of werewolves. But the interpretation of werewolves originally was that of vampires, if that makes sense. Like, we see vampires now as sort of like a prim and proper Victorian, sort of very formal, caring about bloodlines and things like that. But like, I feel like people now are missing out on like that was werewolves originally. And you could make a super cool werewolf story using a pedigree metaphor, as far as like werewolves being like very fancy and like all of that, and we tend to miss out on that. That's just like a personal thing. I think werewolves are a incredibly cool monster and that they should get more attention.
Yeah, I think they should be a lot more than just like kind of a background. Like they've become kind of a background thing where it's like, oh, we all know what a werewolf is, you know? Like they're just big and scary wolf men, and they will eat you, or they're cool and buff, and that's about it. That's all we need to know about werewolves. But I think we should explore that a little bit more. There's more to werewolves than just being cool and buff. Mostly the wolf
and there's
part.
more to werewolves. Mostly the wolf part.
Man,
And like, having the original interpretation of werewolves being something more akin to witches, I'm like, you're missing out on the bit that werewolves used to be inherently like super magical.
Yeah.
Give your werewolf magic powers. Like, let him cast fireball. Do the thing.
The
like,
werewolf is
sick would that
susceptible
be?
to regular bullets and court trials, but he can do magic.
He can do magic. So like,
So it balances
take
out.
away some of that immunity, add some cool DPS capabilities. Like, make your werewolf less tanky.
Look, we're
and more of a
rebalancing
glass
it.
cannon.
Yeah.
We're rebalancing the class. Needed a nerf. I needed a nerf. Let the werewolf go do cool magic shit. Or better
Dude, the
yet,
idea of a werewolf
like,
casting a spell
is so cool.
is very
and
cool.
I feel like the main thing is the modern interpretation of werewolf misses out on a lot of like what the original sort of folklore base came from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I could just get it out that there were these cool tidbits of information, we could have magic werewolves. And I think that would be so sick.
Hey, yeah, movie producers, get at us.
Get at us. Make a magic werewolf.
Yeah, let us write Magic Werewolf, the new teen hit
like,
series.
Do you know why werewolves are even weak to silver in the first place?
No, we actually didn't touch on that yet.
Yeah, because English folklore prior to 1865 said all shapeshifters were vulnerable to silver.
You know what?
So, like...
That makes sense.
So they were like... Because, there's the thing with fairies and iron, right? Because there's this sort of... Every once in a while you see a magical creature being sort of weak to a different type of metal. You see that with iron, you see that with silver.
And part of it was
like
the rarity of that metal.
Yeah, was that it was expensive and hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like a tiger rock scenario, where it's like, I think I've mentioned that before, but like, are you familiar with the tiger rock?
No.
That it's like, hey, I have this rock, it keeps tigers away. And they're like, that rock doesn't keep tigers away. And he's like, no, but do you see any tigers around here? Like, just because something exists and the thing isn't nearby doesn't mean that it inherently keeps that away.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a lot of the people who would be owning silver or iron would be richer people who wouldn't be dealing with the forest and, like, wildlife and shit. So, the common people wouldn't have silver buttons, but the rich people did. And since the rich people weren't getting mauled by wolves actively, they were like, oh, we're safe because we have silver buttons and you don't. And it's like, I'm pretty sure it's because you have a house and, like, Terrence sleeps in a field. Like,
it's such a weird, like, thing. Like, causation is, like, yeah. The whole correlation thing, it makes no goddamn sense. And that's exactly what I would expect out of people in the 1800s.
Yeah, because, like, in 1640, the city of Greifswald, Germany was infested by werewolves, and, like, a kid in the village was just kind of like, hey, let's take all the buttons from the rich people and their goblets and their belt buckets and all of that, belt buckles, and melt those down into bullets and just shoot the werewolves with them. And that's what they did. Which is, like, a weird way to redistribute wealth, but sure.
I love it. That kid, absolute genius. I bet he released the wolves in the first place.
Yeah, like, you wanna get the rich people to give up all their precious metals? Make a monster that can only die via those.
That kid is brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I do like that the quote says a clever lad, which just implies that this kid just came off the street and was like, yo.
That's brilliant. I love it. I love every part of it.
Take all the fancy things and just melt them,
and
make them into bullets.
You know that they get to keep the silver, right? Because, like, they killed the wolf, and that rich person is not going to want that fucking bloody werewolf.
Yeah, no. So they get a wolf pelt, and also
they get plenty of wolf pelts. They don't have to waste their own bullets. Like,
yeah.
Fuck. That's brilliant.
Damn. Yeah. And there is a, I don't know if you've read Percy Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
There's a scene in one of the Percy Jackson books, in a later one, I think it's in the Heroes of Olympus series.
Oh, I haven't read
that. There's a scene where they do fight werewolves, I think. And they don't have any silver, so their mechanic has a magic tool belt that makes any tool. And he pulls out 2 silver-tipped ball-peen hammers and just starts going for it. Which is brutal as hell, but, like, shockingly effective.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like a hammer would kill pretty much anything you swung it at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like a ball peen's not super chunky, but
I mean, it's still just a bit of metal on the end of a stick. Like,
yeah.
That's the whole premise of maces. Like, that's...
Let me check and see how big a ball peen hammer is.
They can vary.
Yeah, he was hitting them with the sharp end of a ball peen hammer. That's gonna cause some issues.
I mean, yeah, it's still a piece of metal at the end of a stick, and I think at the end of the day, that's what we can take away.
That would kill just about anybody.
Things we can take away from this episode. 1, Guillermo del Toro was wrong about all monsters. Some monsters, he was right. All monsters, he was wrong.
Alright.
Hammers are just a modern mace. And will still kill things. 3, monsters are a really good way to steal from the rich.
Accurate.
And 4, Syd doesn't like English writing.
I don't. I respect it, but I don't enjoy it.
And 5, werewolves were much cooler when the French had control of the narrative.
Yeah, to be fair. And I think I've got a 6th. I think that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like this episode had everything. Lessons you can take away. lists that I just came up with on the spot. Um,
Cool werewolf trivia.
werewolf trivia, us trivia,
Us trivia.
talking about Halloween. Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great episode.
Absolutely.
One for the books.
One for the books. It was our first two-parter, too.
It was.
That's another
It
one.
was exciting. I liked learning a lot about werewolves. It's cool to like spend more time on a creature, you know what I mean? Or on a little
Definitely.
tidbit of folklore. There definitely was
And-
a lot to talk about. And I think there'll definitely
Yeah.
be more things that we have a lot to talk about, and we might even revisit some of the things that we've already talked about.
Yeah, because I feel like werewolves are my favorite monster in that statement. So it is really cool to get a chance to sort of go deeper into them and talk about like the original intent and the current modernized intent. Because with a lot of these monsters, what they originally were is not what they are interpreted to be now.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool to sort of watch how folklore evolves based on the society that we live in and how information is transported.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you want more fun, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Give us all those follows just to support the show. It really shows us that you guys are having a lot of fun with us and want us to keep creating this awesome content. Because we certainly have fun with it, and we're always happy to do it.
Yeah. And we do love making content for you guys, and having some feedback is always great. And if you want to have a direct line to our feedback, where can they find us, Marty?
They can find us on Twitter at OnCryptids. That is one of the best places to, tweet at us. We'll probably tweet you back.
Yeah.
We also tweet about when we are recording, going live on Twitch, when episodes go up. And we also just, tweet some garbage sometimes, like everyone does on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, that's what twitter.com is for. If you want another direct way to contact us, we hang out at Twitch every Thursday from 8:30 to 10:30. We play Minecraft and sort of just hang out and get a chance to talk to you guys. The chat is always a great way to sort of let us know what you think of the episode, or if you want to just hang out with us. We play there. The channel is The Midcast, TheMydCast, and we go live, both of us do, on the Thursday from the 8:30 to 10 again. And Marty, you have a
Weekend stream.
weekend stream?
Yeah, it's usually Saturday or Sunday night, depending on how busy I am. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I hang out and play Overwatch. And a new thing about our Twitch, if you didn't know, and if you do want to get in contact with us, we have a suggestion box there, which not only is for suggestions for our Twitch, but extends to the episode as well. So if you guys have some suggestions on maybe stuff you want us to cover or talk about, that is one of the best places to do it. Or you can just pop on our Twitter or our Instagram, which we haven't mentioned in a little while.
We've got one of those, we promise, even though we don't post pictures there a lot. We plan on being more active there, especially with fall coming and everything looking so pretty outside.
Oh, yes, of
We
course.
plan on taking more pictures and sort of...
And that is Mid Podcasts, which is MYD period podcasts, PODCASTS. Find us there for all of our photography updates.
Yeah. But
And I think that does wrap it up for us.
yeah. Thanks so much for all your support, and
We'll
see
see
y'all
y'all
in the
in the
woods.
woods.